What happens when Ubisoft accidentally makes one of the greatest pirate games ever? For years, pirate games was never really relevant in the gaming industry, especially not with AAA games. Which is a shame because pirates, at least to me, are the coolest, and the potential was certainly there. The fantastical element of living a life of freedom where you travel the world freely on your ship with no restrictions in search of fame, wealth, and power is a perfect recipe for a pirate game. It wasn't until Ubisoft came in 2013 and gave us exactly what we dreamed of. And it's safe to say, they delivered a masterpiece. At this point, the Assassin's Creed formula was getting predictable, where you start off as an outsider and join the Brotherhood where you learn the ways of assassins, as was the case with the previous AC games with Altair, Ezio, and Connor. But Black Flag is different. Ubisoft gave us something completely different, which resulted into not just one of the greatest Assassin's Creed games ever, but the best pirate game ever. I'm recording this 13 years later in June of 2026, a month before the release of its remake, Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resync, to see if the game still holds on, and is it as good as we remember it, or is it just nostalgia? We play as Edward Kenway, a Welsh privateer turned pirate and grandfather of Connor Kenway from Assassin's Creed 3. Edward's journey is a different one to all the other assassins before him, like Ezio or Altair, and also different from those after him. Edward doesn't start out as an assassin. In fact, he kills an assassin named Duncan Walpole, who wasn't a great assassin that was loyal to the Brotherhood by any means. Edward steals Duncan's identity and accidentally gets sucked into a war between the Templars and the Assassins. The Templars are seeking a mysterious place called the Observatory, which is kind of like an overpowered device that can spy on anyone, while the Assassins are trying to prevent it from falling into the hands of the Templars. Initially, Edward works for whichever side suits him the most, without any care for the consequences of his actions. At the start of the game, Edward is reckless, and entirely driven by wealth and fame, abandoning his loved ones in the process. Throughout the game, the pirates are also fighting the rise of civilization as the Spanish and British governments are looking to end the golden age of piracy. One of the coolest things about the game is that we get to meet some of the famous pirates during the golden age of piracy, most notably Edward Teach, aka Blackbeard, Anne Bonny, Jack Rackham, Bartholomew Roberts, and many more. And although the depiction of some of the historical figures in Assassin's Creed is not always the most accurate, I would say Black Flag does a good job in that regard. Throughout the game, friends die and betray each other for the promise of wealth, leaving Edward feeling empty as he slowly realizes the aftermath of his obsession. The story is one of the strongest in the franchise, as Edward is not a hero. The game takes us through his maturation process, going from a greedy pirate to the legendary assassin that he later then becomes. The modern-day story has nothing remarkable to speak about. If you ask most Assassin's Creed fans about the modern-day story, they would struggle to explain it. We play as an Abstergo client that enters the Animus and searches through Edward Kenway's memories. The modern day in Black Flag feels less connected to the story compared to the previous AC games because of the connection with Desmond. But even then, we were still complaining about how the modern day slowed the games down. In Black Flag, they tried to make the modern story interesting with the corny jokes and the mystery, but it never really worked. Assassin's Creed Black Flag is set in the Caribbean between the years 1715 and 1722 during the golden age of piracy. And one of the biggest reasons why this game is still remembered is the open world. It has one of the biggest open worlds in the series, and a big chunk of the game is spent traveling the world in the Jackdaw, your ship that you steal from the Spanish government. The Caribbean is alive everywhere you go, with ships sailing around endlessly that you can attack and plunder, which is actually the best part of the game, the naval combat. You can shoot front-side cannons, mortars, starboard and port-side cannons, which if you're not familiar with the ship terms, just means left and right. The ship combat is so well done, and ramming enemies is so satisfying. You can board ships to get resources and recruit more pirates into your pirate crew. Boarding ships just feels like something out of a movie. It's easily one of the best aspects of the game. Swinging onto enemy ships like your Captain Jack Sparrow and destroying enemies never gets boring. Boarding ships could have just been a cutscene, but it's clear that Ubisoft spent a little more time to add this really cool game element that unfortunately is not common with the recent Assassin's Creed games, as most of them are just rushed. You can conquer and control areas of the map as you explore the seas by defeating naval forts that are also guarded by enemy ships, forcing you to fight a battle of two fronts. There are large islands that you can explore that house many civilians, such as Havana or Nassau, which is kind of like the Republic of Pirates, which is filled with crowds and represents freedom. Also, there are smaller tropical islands scattered around the map that are filled with treasure chests waiting to be plundered, treasure maps that roughly tell you the location of certain treasures, or schematics for upgrading the jackdaw, which adds another layer to the game instead of the game just holding your hand throughout everything. The game also allows us to hunt land animals and sea animals like sharks with our rowboat, which can be challenging, and you can end up demolishing your rowboat if you don't upgrade your spears. These resources are useful for upgrading your ship, to take on larger ships with more firepower, and unlock more outfit for Edwards, like this really cool pirate cloak outfit, which is my personal favorite. You can also customize the ship to your liking. You can change the wheel, the figurehead, the color of the sails, and on top of that, the game also has underwater exploration, where you can dodge jellyfish and sharks to find even more hidden treasure. And this is another feature that, again, they did not have to incorporate into the game, but they did. And I'm not finished. The game also has changeable weather systems that goes from sunny days to cloudy days and even rainy days, with storms and huge waves that take down your ships if you're not careful. Next is the parkour element. The parkour in Black Flag is pretty straightforward, where you just have to hold the R2 button and Edward pretty much does everything. The movement is simplified and lacks some of the cooler animations that were introduced in the later AC games like Unity or Syndicate, but I would argue that the Caribbean is not made for complex movements, or rather flow. Edward's movement is seamless. You can jump around pretty much everything, from dense forests to rooftops to even ships, that make a perfect playground for parkour, and you can get some cool looking animations from the top of a mast, or swinging from a rope and assassinating targets, which never gets old. The missions in Black Flag is no different than the other AC games. It has the usual assassination, infiltrations, and eavesdropping missions, but by far the biggest con of the game are the tailing missions. Black Flag is notorious for its repetitive tailing missions that are simply boring and uninteresting. Whether it's tailing a target on land or following them using your ship, it is very predictable, as once the tailing is done, you know there's some action that's gonna happen, and I would rather just skip to the action. There is no shortage of side missions in this game. There are Templar hunts scattered around the map where you can come across interesting conflicts between different characters that can unlock a very valuable outfit in the end, along with assassin and naval contracts seemingly everywhere on the map that are an easy way of collecting money. Also, the game adds some puzzles that are very easy but at least change the flow of the game from time to time. The combat focuses on a counter system and chain kills to clear out the decks of Man of Wars. Despite it not being challenging, clearing out waves and waves of enemies is extremely fun and gives you the ultimate feeling of being a pirate. Edward uses dual swords, pistols, smoke bombs, and rope darts, which can all be upgraded to defeat enemies. Moving on to the stealth, while it's not the best in the series, and the Caribbean does not make the best playground for stealth, as it offers little stealth opportunities apart from bushes and some social stealth elements, Edward's arsenal does add a little bit of creativity with blowpipes, smoke bombs, and rope darts to switch it up. There are also some creative elements like hiring dancers to distracting enemies, which is pretty cool. Now, is this game perfect? By all means, no. Despite the tailing missions and the slow modern day, the game excels in pretty much every other aspect. It does what most games fail to do, which is immersion. The moment I boot up the game and hear that Pirates of the Caribbean-like music, I am completely immersed into this world, and it's a pirate life for me. From the story, to the amazing world, to the intricate characters, Black Flag shines in almost everything. And this is why Black Flag is not just remembered as a good Assassin's Creed game, it's regarded as the best pirate game ever, still to this day. But maybe that's me. Maybe I am just easily pleased and so in love with pirates. But yeah, those were my thoughts. Let me know in the comments if you agree or not. Is Assassin's Creed Black Flag the best game in the franchise? And is it the best pirate game ever made? Let me know in the comments section below, and I will see you guys in the next video.